The 21st century has become a world that revolves around data. According to statistics from Internet Data Center, IDC, in 2008, the total amount of data worldwide was reported to be 0.4 zettabytes, ZB. 1 zettabyte equals 1 billion terabytes. To put this into perspective, if we consider a book with 200,000 words, that would be equivalent to around 14,000 trillion books, enough to fill about 280,000 libraries. By 2011, the world's data volume had increased by 2.7 times compared to 2008, and every year, an amount of data equivalent to 25,000 libraries is being added. Artificial intelligence, AI, known as the artificial version of human intelligence, has the capacity to manage and process all this data effectively. With the help of AI technology, humans have now integrated these technologies into daily life. However, the same AI technology also poses the risk of taking over job opportunities and has the potential to influence and override human decision-making. These issues are discussed in the book 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. This book does not only cover history, but also spans multiple disciplines including biology, sociology, psychology, philosophy, and religion. The book's author, Yuval Noah Harari, earned a PhD in history from Oxford University and is widely regarded as a brilliant thinker and writer. He is also the author of globally acclaimed books like *Sapiens* and *Homo Deus*. His works have been translated into around 50 languages and have sold over 12 million copies worldwide. This summary of 21 Lessons for the 21st Century will present all 21 chapters in sequence, preserving the original essence and insights of the book. Lesson 1. Understanding the world. Every country has its own historical narrative, shaped by the events it has endured. If we were to broadly categorize all these narratives, they would fall into three main ideologies. 1. The fascist narrative. 2. The communist narrative. And 3. The liberal narrative. Liberalism embraces democracy, freedom, broad-minded thinking, human rights, freedom of the press, free market economies, and non-discrimination based on class, gender, or sex. It values the essence and importance of liberty. Looking back at history, humanity spent thousands of years under the oppression of authoritarian regimes. But in today's world, democratic systems have managed to replace many of these brutal regimes. Countries have overcome economic barriers. Nations like India and Brazil have entered the liberal path. Even nations like North Korea, Iraq, and Azerbaijan have the potential to transform and become like Europe or America, if only freedom is allowed in. Lesson 2. The future of work. No one can predict what the labor market will look like in 2050, but one thing is certain: machine learning and robotics will drastically reshape every industry. Some believe millions will become unemployed in the next 2 decades, while others are hopeful that new job opportunities will emerge, making people even wealthier. When machines began booming during the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century, people feared mass unemployment. However, humans have 2 core capabilities: physical labor and cognitive intelligence. Machines back then lacked learning and emotional capacity, so they only replaced physically demanding jobs. Fields requiring intelligence, such as education, human interaction, analysis, and the arts, remain dominated by humans. But in the 21st century, machines are now equipped with intelligence and learning abilities, AI plus machine learning. The longer they work, the smarter they become. In fact, machines are starting to outperform humans even in jobs that require emotional intelligence. For instance, AI programs developed by IBM and Google have beaten world champions in chess. This means that machines are now capable of taking over cognitively demanding jobs too. Upskilling every single worker with new knowledge is a difficult task, but for machines, it's easy. Since all machines are connected to a single network, updating them all at once is simple. Take drivers, for example. If a new traffic regulation is introduced, it takes a long time to educate every driver. But with self-driving cars, the new rule can be programmed instantly. The same goes for doctors. It's hard to train every doctor on a new disease or treatment, but robot doctors can be instantly updated. Each year, 1.25 million people die in road accidents globally. About 90% of these are due to human error: drunk driving, speeding, texting while driving, falling asleep, or losing focus. Self-driving cars don't make these mistakes. If we replaced all vehicles with self-driving ones, we could prevent 90% of those deaths. In both transportation and healthcare, robots could save millions of lives. But jobs like drivers and doctors may disappear. Still, what matters more is saving lives, not protecting specific jobs. So those who lose their jobs as drivers or doctors will have to transition into new roles. From this perspective, the author predicts that AI tech giants will dominate the future world. All commerce will eventually be handled by platforms like Google Search and AI systems. At that time, poorer nations are likely to become even more impoverished. Why? Because their current economic value lies in providing cheap labor. But in the future, that kind of labor will be replaced by automation. Low-skilled countries may be left without income and food security. Lesson 3. Freedom. In a truly free society, every individual has the right to express and live according to their inner desires, as long as they don't harm others. One person's feelings or desires may or may not carry meaning for another, but in a democratic system, every individual's emotions and perspectives matter. That's why, over time, people have come to accept and understand diverse personal experiences, such as same-sex marriages and other forms of individual expression. In 2016, the British Prime Minister phrased a referendum by asking voters, "How do you feel about this issue?" rather than, "What do you think?" a crucial distinction. If only logical thinkers were allowed to vote, then illiterate people wouldn't even be granted voting rights. But even those who cannot read or reason academically must be allowed to express how they feel. As a result, in a democracy, a vote cast by an illiterate person is counted equally with that of a scholar. This is because democracy is fundamentally built on human emotions. Therefore, if technology ever emerges that can manipulate or influence people's emotions, democracy itself could become a puppet of that technology. Lesson 4. Equality. Inequality has existed since the Stone Age. The root cause of inequality is ownership. In ancient times, the wealthy class owned land, livestock, and tools, which they passed down through generations. However, the inequality of that era pales in comparison to today's disparities. In the 21st century, many believed that the internet, globalization, and modern technology would help level the global playing field. But in reality, modern technology has exacerbated inequality even further. Today, just 1% of the world's population owns more than half of the world's wealth. The combined assets of the richest 100 people equal those of the poorest 4 billion people. If this trend continues, by the year 2100, the gap between the rich and the poor will become unimaginably wide. If we want to prevent power and wealth from falling into the hands of a small elite, we must start by regulating data ownership. In ancient times, land ownership created inequality. During the industrial era, ownership of factories did. Now in the 21st century, data is the most valuable asset. If data becomes concentrated in the hands of a few, social inequality will worsen dramatically. The race to control data has already begun. Leading the race are tech giants like Google, Facebook, Baidu, and Tencent. These companies own the data and attention of people across the world. They are what we call attention merchants. They provide free services like information, entertainment, and email to capture our attention and then sell that attention through advertisements. But their ambitions go beyond just advertising. They aim to collect as much data as possible and use that to influence people into wanting their products. We are not merely their consumers. We are the billion-dollar products being sold. Politicians, lawyers, and thinkers need to start focusing on how to regulate data ownership. If we fail to address the question of how to protect people from being manipulated by their own data, the future could bring an unequal and chaotic society. Lesson 5. Community. For millions of years, humans lived in small groups of a few dozen people. But in the 21st century, community has taken the form of massive digital networks involving millions. However, as digital communities expand, real-life emotional intimacy has diminished. Today's people are more interested in what's happening online than in what's happening right in front of them. A digital community of millions cannot replace the warmth of a single real-life friend or sibling. If I fall sick in Israel, none of my online friends in America can bring me soup or physically care for me. They may be able to send a message, but that's about it. In the future, we hope platforms like Facebook will help strengthen offline communities rather than just online ones. But for that to happen, Facebook would need to change its current business model, which earns more money the longer people stay online. If people are rewarded financially for connecting offline through Facebook, the platform may finally help bridge the gap between digital and real-life human connection. Lesson 6. Diverse societies. While Zuckerberg tries to connect all humans online, in the real world we witness civil war in Syria, the rise of terrorist groups like ISIS, and the collapse of unity in European countries, events that reflect growing divisions among people. Many political scientists and ordinary citizens believe these divisions stem from the competition between the Western world and the Islamic world. Today's global political problems are heavily influenced by religious differences. Research shows that attempts to harmonize Western and Muslim societies have largely failed. However, trying to unite humanity under a single global culture by making everyone adopt Western values and democracy is a flawed approach. Modern Muslim youth are more informed and less extreme than in the past. They engage with the global world and do not necessarily support radical ideologies. Many Muslim scholars even define ISIS leader Abu Bakr as a violent extremist who misrepresents Islam. Take the 2016 Olympics, for example. Over 11,000 athletes from around the world competed. They represented their countries, not their religions or social classes. In economics, too, religious beliefs are irrelevant. Even ISIS members who despise America still love the US dollar. Mexican drug lords and North Korean dictators all crave American currency. Whether Easterners or Westerners, Muslims or Christians, we are all humans. When the world faces natural disasters or pandemics, everyone suffers together. So why can't all religions and all of humanity work together to make the world a better place? Lesson 7. Nationalism. For most of human history, people did not live as part of nations. Instead, they lived in small tribes of a few dozen people. When disasters like floods struck, these small tribes often perished. Only in the past few thousand years did people begin cooperating across tribal lines, building dams and infrastructure together, which led to the formation of nations. Loving one's country is not inherently problematic, but extreme nationalism is. It can lead to unwanted nuclear wars, trade wars, economic crises, and cyber attacks that threaten humanity. In today's interconnected world, no country can function in isolation. Everything, politics, economics, and technology, depends on global cooperation. Global challenges like nuclear disarmament or climate change cannot be solved by one country alone. If nations work together in unity, it will lead to better politics, improved science, and stronger technological progress for humanity. Lesson 8. Religion. In the ancient world, religion played a major role in 3 areas: technology, politics, and identity. In technology, people prayed for rain, healing, and agricultural success, relying on priests and gods. In politics, laws and policies were often directly based on religious scriptures. In identity, religion defined one's lifestyle, dress, and food habits, shaping personal and group identity. Today, religion is no longer relevant in the first two areas. Farmers use modern techniques, the sick rely on doctors, and nations operate through the ideas of political scientists and legal experts. However, religion still plays a major role in shaping individual and collective identity, often dividing people. It can separate people by faith, justify caste systems, enable cruelty toward those of different beliefs, and fuel gender or LGBTQ+ discrimination. Religion continues to play a role in the dark divisions of the modern world. Worse yet, nationalism now uses religion. Japan promoted Shintoism to fuel patriotism. North Korea treats the Kim family as divine. Israel bases its nationalism on Judaism. Even among Muslims, Iran and Iraq are divided between Shia and Sunni factions. We must not be trapped in religious prisons or emotionally torn apart by these divisions. It is time for all religions and all people to unite and solve the pressing problems of the world together. Lesson 9. Migration. In the 21st century, people migrate from one country to another in search of work, safety, and a better future. Developed countries have tried to welcome refugees, like France and Germany, accepting large numbers of Syrian war refugees. But tension between native populations and migrants continues to grow in Europe. The root cause is that many migrants struggle to adapt to the host country's cultural and social norms. This raises questions. Is welcoming migrants a moral duty, a human responsibility? How many should be accepted? Who qualifies for acceptance? Ultimately, it's up to the host country to decide. For instance, they may prioritize migrants who can culturally integrate or share similar beliefs. This is natural. Allowing someone into your country often means eventually granting them citizenship. A related question arises here is, to what extent should migrants accept the host country's traditions? If the host country is secular, must migrants give up their religion? This is still debated. But generally, if migrants respect the core customs and social norms of the host country, they can integrate well. No country demands that migrants abandon their religion completely. Another issue is the process of granting citizenship. How long should it take? How many generations? Some countries hesitate to grant citizenship even after 3 generations. Scholars argue that denying citizenship after such a long time is a failure of the host nation and can lead to resentment, tension, or even radicalization. Lesson 10. Terrorism. How many people do terrorists actually kill per year? Globally, terrorism causes about 25,000 deaths annually, but most of these occur in countries like Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nigeria, and Syria. By contrast, diabetes kills about 3.5 million people per year, and traffic accidents kill about 1.5 million. Yet people are far more afraid of terrorism than these larger killers. Why? Because terrorism is psychological warfare. Terrorists kill a few but terrify millions. When a terrorist attack happens, public fear pressures governments and military forces to take aggressive action. As a result, counterterrorism becomes a powerful political tool. Terrorists can't defeat armies or take over governments directly, but they can sow discord, destabilize politics, and provoke unwanted wars. For example, the U.S. government responded to 9/11 with massive military operations in the Middle East, costing trillions of dollars. What's more dangerous than terrorism itself is the overreaction to it. While excessive retaliation is unwise, preventive action is essential. The author recommends 3 effective strategies to combat terrorism. 1. Governments must closely monitor terrorist networks. 2. The media must avoid sensationalizing terrorist acts just to boost sales. 3. Citizens must understand the true nature of terrorism and not give in to irrational fear. Lesson 11. War. The past few decades have been among the most peaceful in world history. We've seen a global decline in violent conflicts and massacres. Why? Because powerful nations have begun to understand that war no longer yields profitable results. Countries now recognize that war is a dangerous obstacle to national progress. Why is war no longer rewarding in the modern age? Because the structure of the global economy has changed. In ancient times, tangible resources were valuable. Countries invaded others to seize gold mines, oil fields, or fertile land, and then sold those resources. But in the 21st century, economic value is based not on physical resources, but on technology and knowledge, things that cannot be seized through military conquest. No one wants to spend a fortune and lose trading opportunities just to wage war. That said, we can't guarantee that wars will never happen again. Humans are still a self-destructive species, and their irrationality should never be underestimated. However, we also shouldn't fall into the extremist belief that war is inevitable. Thinking that way would only push every nation to ramp up military spending, compete in arms development, and treat each other with suspicion. So instead of taking extreme positions, either believing war is unavoidable or that peace is guaranteed, we must strive for respectful international relations. We must also address and resolve the nationalistic, religious, and cultural conflicts that could fuel war. Lesson 12. The power of humility. Many ethnic and religious groups believe they are the most important and indispensable people on earth. British, French, Germans, Americans, Russians, and Japanese often claim that without their culture or moral values, humanity would still be living in a barbaric state. They believe that even primitive forest dwellers' annual rituals are what keep the universe from collapsing. But in truth, moral codes existed long before any formal religion. Even hunter-gatherers in the Stone Age had ethical values. And it's not just humans. Animals like wolves, elephants, and chimpanzees also have their own moral systems. For instance, among chimpanzees, strong leaders are expected to respect the weak. If a female chimp gets a banana, the alpha male isn't allowed to snatch it. If he does, he loses his status. That's a moral code of chimpanzees. This shows that compassion, morality, and kindness are not religious inventions. They are natural traits that existed long before Scripture. Religions emerged later to support societal harmony and peace. However, due to rigid interpretation and miscommunication among believers, religion can also lead to egotism and conflict, such as, "My God is better than yours" mentality. Lesson 13 plus 14. God and atheism. Does God really exist? When people talk about God, they often refer to the mysteries of the universe that they cannot understand. Where did the universe come from? What is consciousness? Anything people don't understand, they tend to attribute to divine creation. Moreover, many depict God as a strict ruler who commands how we dress, eat, have sex, or engage in politics, and supposedly monitors us from the heavens. Some of these human-created gods are also easily offended, angry if women dress immodestly, if teenagers masturbate, if people drink alcohol, or if same-sex couples fall in love. Interestingly, religious texts claiming to explain God never include fundamental truths about the universe. None of them explain the laws of physics or describe protons and electrons. All this knowledge has been uncovered not by gods, but by powerless human beings through science. So what happens if people don't believe in God? Will they start killing and looting each other? Not necessarily. Nobody wants to live in a world where murder and theft are constant. Whether or not gods exist, humans will still strive to build stable, peaceful societies. Furthermore, harming others brings pain to oneself. If you destroy someone else's happiness, your own happiness will collapse. That's why, regardless of divine commandments, people will naturally regulate anger and violence to protect their own well-being. Lesson 15. The fog of ignorance. In the 21st century, information flows so rapidly that no single person can know everything. Blindly believing experts isn't enough anymore. To uncover truth, we must think collectively. One major barrier to truth is the tyranny of power. People hesitate to speak the truth to powerful leaders, so those in power often remain ignorant of what's really going on. Leaders must break free from their own power silos to uncover the truth. Lesson 16. Justice. Imagine someone gathers mushrooms to feed their kids, and you steal them. That leaves their children hungry. That's clearly unjust. Because the consequences are so direct, it's easy to see the injustice. But in the 21st century, global consequences are more complex. You might unknowingly be part of injustice. For example, many products we enjoy, our clothes, electronics, or foods, are made by child laborers in poor countries. Can we really say we are innocent? To address justice effectively, it's better to use personal stories rather than abstract data. When people see crying children or suffering victims, they understand and empathize. That's how justice gains support. Lesson 17. Misinformation. Since the Stone Age, humans have believed myths and fantasies. Over time, myths become so widely accepted that they feel like truth. In the 21st century, social media platforms like Facebook are full of misinformation. Religious, political, and economic groups often spread fake news to manipulate public opinion. Take Coca-Cola, for example. Their ads show happy athletes and joyful youth, but never the obese or diabetic victims of their sugary drinks. They've spent billions on advertising to make people believe something untrue. To avoid fake news, never accept anything at face value. Also, paid content is often more reliable than free content. Free information may be filled with manipulative content. When you're interested in a topic, find scientifically vetted sources and decide for yourself. Lesson 18. Science fiction. People today are more fascinated by science fiction than real science. Rather than reading about computer or genetic science, they prefer watching sci-fi movies like The Matrix. Movies and novels often depict a future where robots dominate humans, and gradually, people get trapped in these fictional scenarios without realizing it. So it's important to reflect on how much sci-fi narratives are shaping your worldview, and strive to stay grounded in reality. Lesson 19. Education. What should you teach a child born in 2020 who will turn 30 in 2050? What skills will help them tackle future challenges? What knowledge will help them succeed? No one knows exactly what 2050 will look like. Most current education systems still focus on memorizing data, a method that made sense in times of information scarcity, but not anymore. Should we teach them coding? Chinese? What if by 2050, AI can write code better than humans, and Google Translate can fluently translate any language? One powerful idea is to help children understand themselves, what they want in life. Teach them to know themselves better than Facebook or Google knows them. Teach them not to become slaves to technology. Lesson 20. The meaning of life. Who am I? What should I do with my life? What is life's purpose? These questions constantly linger in people's minds, but no one has definitive answers. Communists might say, life's meaning is to fight capitalism. Jews might say it's to protect their religion and Israel. Nationalists may argue it's to die for your country. But all of these are narrow definitions. Life's meaning isn't a product you can buy off a shelf. It's something you must define for yourself. Don't look for it in external systems. Lesson 21. Meditation. People are curious about what happens after death, but it's more important to understand what's happening while you're alive. Only by fully understanding life can you begin to understand death. You can't study what happens after death, but you can observe your own breathing. You can examine your fleeting thoughts. Author Yuval Noah Harari began practicing Vipassana meditation in 2000 and has meditated 2 hours daily since. He says meditation isn't about escaping truth, it's about discovering it. Without meditation, he says, he couldn't have written Homo Deus. Science still lacks the tools to study the mind directly. It can only study the brain. But the brain and the mind are not the same. We don't yet have solid proof that the mind originates in the brain. So to study the mind, ancient tools like meditation are still valuable. Studies now show that meditation reduces stress and improves focus. You don't need religious beliefs to meditate. Meditation is simply about exploring the truth within your own body. As Harari warns, if you don't even know yourself, you'll never understand the world around you. We've now come to the end of the summary of 21 lessons for the 21st century. This book explores a wide range of topics, including the rise of artificial intelligence and data technology in the 21st century. The 21st century is marked by rapid advancements in biotechnology and information technology, making it an era of profound and often intense transformation. Artificial intelligence, AI, is beginning to threaten human jobs, and powerful tech companies that control vast amounts of data are gaining the ability to predict and influence human thoughts and behavior. As basic jobs are increasingly automated by AI and robots, countries with low educational standards may struggle to even survive in the future. To build a peaceful and harmonious world, the book urges us to avoid extremism in ethnicity, politics, and religion. Instead, we should practice compassion and reason, working toward the greater good of the global community. All nations and peoples should cultivate humility and strengthen mutual friendship and understanding. In this era, it's essential to remain vigilant against misinformation and fabricated narratives. Rather than relying on popular or conventional definitions of life's meaning, we must each discover it for ourselves. And above all, we must make a genuine effort to understand the reality of our own bodies and minds. That's one of the key takeaways from this book. Thank you so much for listening and joining us. If you enjoyed this summary and found it valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth book breakdowns. Stay curious, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next video.